Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Emmanuel Mason, and this is Exposital Vomit. Uh, this show is pretty much just me talking about fictional stuff that I enjoy, science fiction, fantasy, things like that, as well as some things that I'm writing on my own. Um, Let me think. This is pretty much just me, just like in the name, expositing random stuff that is essentially just exposition and me yapping, and hence the term vomit. Um, so a little bit of background on me. I am a communication major at LBC, Lancaster Bible College, and the thing that I want to do, hence the this podcast or radio show of sorts, is me pretty much doing like writing for whether it's like a book or some sort of like game design of a sort. My dream job is being a creative director at a games company. So I just kind of have been writing for the past several years lightly, and then the past couple of years like really trying to get into it. Less so writing actual like story, and have been doing a lot of world building and just concept creation. At current, I have a world that I call the Sephiroth, named after the Jewish Kabbalic image of Adam, and I'll get back into the history of that in just a minute. But it's a world that is pretty much a series of different universes, and each point on the Sephirotic symbol is a different universe. Some are more fantasy adjacent, so like medieval and whatnot. Then you got others that are a bit more science fiction like. I have one where there's a group of humanity that's on a ship called the Cherry Blossom, and they're on a ship to a promised land like place because they pretty much had an apocalyptic event that I have not fully thought through yet. And pretty much they were all served by robots, but not in a Wall-E sort of way. In a more of a they do have work, and it's just the robots help them. I have another one, which is the main one that I've been creating concepts for. I call Shadow, but that's Shadow in the Old English spelling, so SCADU. And essentially that's a story or a world that's built on the supernatural of these creatures that I call Grigori, which are like fallen angel type beings that have corrupted each universe in the Sephiroth, and then there are like lesser ones that live scattered across the world of Shadow. And people had, before the proverbial fall of this universe, were pretty much living in general peace and like harmony with like like spirit beings and the like creator of sorts. But then, and I haven't kind of thought this through all the way yet, but um, after some type of like original sin type thing, I'm thinking that it's something that the spirits did in uh, in um, in collaboration with the mortals of each realm that caused a fall-like event. Hence why there's like things like death and dark magic in like different portions of the Sephiroth. And the way this manifests in the world of Shadow is um, due to the properties of this particular portion of the Sephiroth. The Grigori are very, very limited in a like purely physical state, and aren't able to do a lot of the things they would be able to do normally. I started a little bit ago. Hold on, let me grab my notes. started a little bit ago, kind of writing down some of like the aspects of the world, and the Gregory is kind of like the last thing I've kind of gotten a concept for. Um, so I guess I'll explain like kind of the general concept of or another aspect of the world. The first thing I had was um, these people called fishers, and that's Fisher in the old English spelling also, which is Fiscere. And these people are like a religious group of a sorts that um, are follow a way of life similar to Jedi, in because that's kind of what I they're inspired by, kind of a mix between Jedi, the Belmonts from Castlevania, and the Witchers from the Witcher books, and they pretty much have a particular belief system that has them be able to connect with the. To be honest, I don't know what I want to call the the Yahweh individual within this universe. I've gone to calling it the monad, in reference to Gnostic thought, just because it sounds cool, but not saying that like I believe in Gnosticism. I just thought that monad was a pretty cool name for it. So, but they have a certain level of connection with the monad that allows them to utilize the magic without any drawbacks. But it's the way they have to access it is it has to be a mix between a connection between said monad as well as like skill. So kind of like similar to like how Jedi work with the Force, where in order for a Jedi to use the Force efficiently, it's a mixture between their connection with the Force as well as their skill and proficiency and understanding of the Force. So to kind of give like a little bit of background for those who don't really watch a lot of like Star Wars content, um, uh, everything in the Star Wars universe has a relatively weak connection to the Force, but the Force itself is the source of all life. And then, because of the controversial metachlorians, which are these microscopic beings um, that give everything their connection to the Force, the more metachlorians you have, the closer of a connection you have to the incorporeal Force. And the and Sith are people who have a very high metachlorian count, and because of this, they are able to do things with the Force, whether in a passive sense, like having a certain level of precognition, or in a more dominative sense, when it comes to the dark side of the Force, which are what the Sith tend to use to do things such as like choke someone out. And the way that correlates with the Fishers is that their connection with the monad, as well as their skills that they're taught when they're growing up, is what pretty much gives them their abilities. Now, the general premise of like the story that I've kind of come up with for I guess I like the Tales of Shadow. Hold on a sec. Let me write that down actually, because I've been calling it the World of Shadow. That's reminding me of um, Elden Ring, a game for those of you who don't know. And I was just like, I don't like that, but Tales of Shadow sounds a little bit better, and I might actually. I don't think I'll keep it, but I want to give like because it's kind of an idea just popped up in my head. I give like a similar naming convention to each portion, like stories that go per each like Sephirotic area, kind of like the Tales of series, if you've ever heard of that, and so that I don't end up getting like copyright claimed or something, or no, doing the naming convention just to be clever, because being clever is kind of fun. was I talking about before? See, ADHD, but that's why I call it vomit. It's everything all over the place. Oh yeah, I was kind of getting into the gritty of like the story I've had the idea for. Um, the main character of in Tales of Shadow uh, is a character who's been separated from the rest of the Fishers because of a culling that the um, Raider government uh, of the world of Shadow has did to them, pretty much killing the majority of them. There's a few in the world, however, they're scattered like all about, kind of like the Imperial period in Star Wars, where Jedi were pretty much all but forgotten and dead. But except in this case, people still remember the Fishers, and depending on the culture in the area, I haven't fully like developed this yet, but like depending on the culture of the area and what that particular area within the world, they believe that the Fishers are either like good, bad, or they are just some randos that they kind of just allow hang around, or they have like death orders on them. Something I want to do with the world of Shadow is make the fact that the world is fallen very prevalent in this world. Um, the inspiration on the kind of like tone of this world would be, I can't even remember, but something akin to like um, actually no, the it would be akin to how in Castlevania they had the church, but the church was more of a um, what people think of when they stereotypically think of the Catholic Church during the Middle Ages, where they're just kind of doing things to for pretty much themselves. Um, I kind of want a similar vibe of that moment where the monster goes up to the Pope or the priest in Castlevania, where the priest is like, you can't be in this church, but the monster is like, I can because you let me in here. And I want to have like a certain level of self-righteousness to a lot of like the religious sects in the world of Shadow, but I also want there to be other like spiritualist sects that delve into like the darker aspects of the magic system that I'm kind of going back and forth creating. Um, for the magic system, I started out with just a kind of simple light and dark magic, where in order to access like the light magic, I had it to where in order to do anything with it, you had to have like a connection with the monad of a sort. Like you had to have a divine understanding. Um, but for now, I had an idea a little bit ago. I don't remember what procked it, but I had the idea for the entire world to be, no, I know what procked it. The magic system to be based in like blood and the soul, because of how the Bible puts a lot of importance on bloods. Like you have the blood of the lamb for like sacrifices and stuff. And then you have how blood is used in a negative sense, in like in like real life witchcraft and stuff. Then there's also the blood of Christ, which is what like saves us. So I had the idea to put blood at the center of the magic system in some sense, and then expand on it. The general term that I use for the magic system is hemomancy, which is a reference to like hemoglobin in the blood. But it extends more. It extends out further than just being able to control your blood. There are there are versions of hemomantic techniques that allow you to alter your blood or not your blood, obviously, Manny, alter your bone structure, um, because bone is made in the blood. There's an aspect of it that allows you to make your energy circulation around your body more efficient, giving the user more stamina, allowing pretty much making the circulation of blood more efficient. So like you hanging upside down, and normally your blood would rush to your brain and like make you like woozy. Practitioners of hemomancy would be able to pretty much make it to where their blood just circulates like normal. And then the way that I kind of go into a dark and light side of that, um, I haven't fully conceptualized yet. Um, with the main character, uh, he uses a type of hemomancy that he learned early on, which was one of the few versions of hemomancy that he learned before the culling of like his people, pretty much. That allows him to control the electricity in his body, um, and amplify it in such a way um, that it becomes like usable as a weapon. The way I rationalize him doing this via his blood is that he makes the consumption of energy in his body um, significantly like more efficient, and then he'll consume a lot of calories at once, allowing him to pretty much um, uh, apply energy, caloric energy, into his nervous system, and have an intimate enough control over the electricity in his body that he doesn't disrupt his nervous system, while at the same time being able to project and control electricity outside his body. Um, Kind of going back to like the basis of the magic system, um, I had the reason why blood is magical be um, that the magic comes from the soul. So all the magic comes from the soul. So it's the divine essence, and this is kind of where my inspiration from Gnosticism kind of comes in. It's kind of like the inner light in Gnosticism, where Gnostics pretty much believe that when Jesus came down, he wasn't fully God and fully man. He was a fully spirit being that was the true deity in the universe, because a lesser deity created the universe, the physical. Because in Gnosticism, they believe that the physical is all evil and that the spiritual is all good, which is kind of an oxymoron, because if the spiritual was all good, then what they call the demiurge, the lesser god that created the universe, wouldn't be bad. But anyways, when this version of Jesus died on the cross, he pretty much gave us not the Holy Spirit in the way that we understand it. He gave us a sort of divine essence, and pretty much gave us the ability to go through a process that they call gnosis, Gnosis. And essentially what that is it's kind of like reaching nirvana in like Buddhism. Nothing new is under the sun. But and in doing in like finding pretty much inner peace of a sort, you are able to rejoin with the spirit beings of the monad and the pleroma, which are the collection of the non-corrupted deities in Gnosticism. And what I did with that is I kind of just took that and made it a little bit more general. Is that like everybody's born with a level of spiritual like energy, like it's pretty much the energy of their soul, and that energy of their soul is what gives the body its ability to pretty much have energy, because there's both physical and non-physical energies that allow living things to do what they do, kind of like chi and like the stereotypical chi or chakra, and like your stereotypical Eastern fictional tale, and the magical energy from the soul kind of coalesces in the blood and then spreads out into the rest of the body. And most people who like are able to use hemomancy that aren't like fishers are only really able to use the their blood in most cases because the magical energy is more dense in the blood and it's easier to control a denser coalescence of magical energy rather than the what is spread out in the body. Now, more efficient practitioners of hemomancy would theoretically be able to make sure that the magical essence is dense everywhere, dense enough to where they can still utilize magic in other portions of their body. So making their muscles denser and stronger, making their, like I said earlier, their bones alter the shape of their bones. Because despite blood coming from the bones, implanting magical energy within the bones, or maintaining magical energy in the bones, because the bones' magical energy is very slight and it's a byproduct of the blood being made within the core of the bones. And I kind of been all over the place with the magic system because I didn't think of the electricity powers until like I think a couple of weeks ago, and pretty much the only thing that I had going for the magic system and the character was that the bad people in air quotes, like just generally people who just aren't haven't like had like a sort of divine awakening of sorts, utilize hemomancy in a either non-efficient way or a very visceral way. Like they'll force their blood out of their body and use it as like whips or like some sort of sharpened like tool, and then getting a certain amount of their own like magical energy through their blood into someone else's blood, letting them be able to pretty much do whatever they want pretty much to that other person. But I realized that was kind of like a little like difficult to kind of play around. I'm still probably gonna keep a certain aspect of that, but I don't think that that's like viable as like fun or interesting combat, at least for like the long term, where it's just people just using their blood. So what I kind of wound up doing to combat this is that like there are, for people that actually use hemomancy in that sense, and there's very few, I think that makes sense to have very few people be able to do it in that sense. But in order to kind of combat this, like the fact that you need blood to survive, and I didn't want to like think of a way where people just can make blood off on the spot. I have within on the side of like the bad people, these things called contracts, where these people will seek out the Grigori, which, to give a little background on where I got the term Grigori from, in the book of Enoch, the Grigori are pretty much just the fallen angels. And I just thought, instead of just calling them fallen angels, I thought to call them Grigori because it's really interesting. It's a cooler name pretty much. And yeah, but these like Grigori will be found by X person, and then they'll pretty much allow because the Grigori are physical beings to a degree now, but they still hold a degree of spiritual power. They the person who found the Grigori will accept a portion of the Grigori's physical body into themselves, to pretty much like have like a piece of that Grigori with them at all times, to pretty much gain magical power, because it pretty much gives them like not unlimited magical energy, but a significantly larger pool of it. And the reason Grigori do this is that the way that they gain power and influence is by spreading themselves out physically. I haven't really gotten the full essence of that down. I've still been like brainstorming how I fully want that to work, but in them doing this, it can have certain physiological effects on the person who gets the contract from the Grigori. Um, a possible byproduct I thought of, which would be pretty interesting and cool, is I have now I can create a reason for vampiric people to be in the world of in Tales of Shadow. And the way I thought that I would make that work is um, the Grigori will form a contract with a person. Now, however much of the Grigori is given to the person is how much power that person will get. And not all Grigori are created equal. So some are stronger than others. But so it's the medium to um, stronger Grigori will be able to give a good chunk of themselves to the person seeking the contract, and that person will have minimal drawbacks with the more powerful Grigori, and somewhat reasonably handled drawbacks with like a medium strength Grigori. Um, and oftentimes the contracts will be give your blood to someone else, and to pretty much just spread the essence of the Grigori, because the Grigori's essence will essentially grow in someone like a parasite, while it's giving them power and whatnot. It's kind of like it's more of a take than it is a give, where that person's will is slowly but surely overtaken by the Grigori. And one of the drawback that generally happens is a need to pretty much consume blood of other people. I thought that the drawback of having a Grigori's essence within you is that your magical essence becomes corrupted in a way that your body can't keep itself together properly, and due to this, your blood becomes essentially like moot, and you need to absorb the uncorrupted blood of others to pretty much keep yourself from like pretty much dying or getting absorbed as just a piece of the Grigori itself. And what the Grigori's essence does with the blood that you take in, it makes your bodily functions, utilizes the blood in such an intimate way that it makes it to where you are you stop aging pretty much. The stereotypical vampiric ability to not age. And in that I kind of, because I, to be honest, was reaching a little bit with that one. I hadn't really thought that one fully out. I just kind of wanted a reason for vampires to be in the story, because the initial concept for the World of Shadow was just like a world that was in a Victorian time period, which I still wanted to be in a Victorian time period, but and this world was just like ravaged by like monsters and spiritual beings that are trying to pretty much subjugate the entirety of like the sentient population. And I say sentient because there's more than just humans in this world. Well, I don't know about this particular portion of the Sephiroth, because I don't know if like having like elves or something would fit. But that was kind of the original vision, and the main character would have like a disillusionment with both the darker aspects of the magic system as well as the lighter aspects of the magic system. The character I believe I decided to name this one Toland, my idea was that to have every main character be like a like very soft self insert of myself, but I make um their personality attributes either understated, like personality attributes of myself or other characters that I've seen, understated or overstated, so that it's not like just me putting myself into a story, because I think that's a little much. But um, the reason I put the vampires in there is because the idea for the character was that he had a curse, a curse on himself that was partially self-inflicted, but he didn't know what it was. He was functionally like a minor like werewolf, um, and he would have a moment where a period of time where he would like just kind of go off the deep end, kind of like a force wielder, kind of delving into the dark side, um, and he ends up like forming a contract of sorts with something, or makes a dumb decision and becomes like a vampire instead of like having the one curse. He trades one curse for another, and he's like kind of like has like a high on it for a little bit, similar to that of like Peter Parker when he gets the black suit, but he realizes like after a while that like it's doing more taking than it is giving, and he pretty much finds a way to remove the vampiric like curse off of himself, and then in him like pretty much finding the god monad individual, and like kind of reconciling what his belief system is. He gets the original curse back, but it's no longer a curse. It's a easily controllable blessing. I didn't really get far into how the pseudo lycanthropy that he has in the beginning kind of is a curse, because the original idea I had for it was like he is kind of like a Geralt of Rivia type of character, in the sense that he kind of just goes around killing monsters, and he kind of does that out of an obligation of sorts, and he has like heightened senses in a very Witcher like way, where like he can see in the dark, faster reflexes, can hear, slight healing factor of for like being injured and whatnot, enhanced speed and strength, but and then he also has two swords. One is like one is a is like a is like a European two-handed sword, but the blade and the hilt are very thin. It's almost rapier like, but it's a little bit, no, it's about the average width of a rapier that he would carry on his back, and then on his side would be a katana like sword, and the rapier like sword would be if you ever, as a matter of fact, a good description of what the general silhouette I wanted for the sword would be Alucard from Castlevania's sword, pretty much, and then a katana that was kind of sort of a dark weapon, and the rapier be like a light weapon of sorts. Because the weapon idea actually I think came first, because I thought I was kind of like laying in my bed or something, and I thought like it'd be cool if like someone, like there was a character where like they dual wielded the stereotypical European broadsword, like an Excalibur like sword, and a katana, and like use the European sword as like a well, I later like rationalized like why someone would ever do this, is like using the European double-bladed sword as like a thrusting slash parrying weapon, and then the katana as like a slashing weapon. As And then as that idea kind of came to fruition, I kind of thought, because at the time I had a hyperfixation on The Witcher Castlevania and a Japanese novel series called Vampire Hunter D, which is actually the character that Alucard from Castlevania is inspired by. Uh, but as like I kind of developed it, I was like, ooh, it'd be kind of cool if like the sword. I just decided to call it like Caliburn, which is like a simplified version of the famous Arthurian sword Excalibur. Um, and then have the other sword, the katana, be like some sort of like not necessarily a holy blade, but a blade that's used for good. I thought like the katana be some sort of weapon to subjugate like the demons, because initially I was gonna have this character be in like a pretty much set into in an era that's current. So like he pretty much just lived in a version of our world that had like slightly more prevalent like physical supernatural activity. And what he would do is he would like pull out the blade. I'm trying to find the name that I had for the katana, because it was something along the lines of Hell's Bane or Devil's Bane or something, where like weaker demons would be like literally like quake in their boots, like shiver me timbers type stuff, when he draws the sword. And the more he absorbed, and the sword would absorb them and like gain power. Then I was like, I kind of don't like that, because I wanted my character to have like like not I don't want my character to get too much of his power from like the like the demonic, pretty much like evil and stuff, like, or the dark side. And I also kind of like couldn't really think of any other thing for Caliburn, other than it just being a stereotypical just Arthurian sword, like an enchanted sword, pretty much. Yeah, so like that's how I kind of wound up just changing it. Then the concept that I have now for both of the blades, I haven't really updated them completely for the magic system that I have now. Devil's Bane, the katana, I thought would be like a random katana that Toland found, that pretty much gives him that he imbues with his blood to make it like a blood weapon. Because I was thinking like maybe like some characters in Tales of Shadow would imbue their weapons with like their blood, and then kind of like how Force users in an early portion of Star Wars, or the early time period of Star Wars, would imbue their weapons with the Force. Because before, wow, that voice crack was crazy. Force users would imbue their weapons with the Force, and it would pretty much make them like extremely durable and very easy to use for a Force wielder. That's kind of where I got the idea from. I think that's where I got the idea from. I don't think that's what I don't. That wasn't what I was thinking about at the time, but I think that's probably the spirit of that was just like in my head when I thought of it, probably. And then Caliburn be a weapon that was like an heirloom of the Fishers, and it'd be like a weapon that's indwelt by the monad to a degree, in a similar way the like the temple is like God dwells in like the temple in the Old Testament. So what I wound up, wow, I just lost my train of thought. Crazy. What was I talking about? Caliburn, blade, sword. Yeah, I had Caliburn being like